Today's episode of Wiki Sift is brought to you by... Today's episode of Wiki Sift is brought to you by Nicolas Cage. What the heck, Tom? Why can't you do this? Today's episode of Wiki Sift is brought to you by... Today's episode of Wiki Sift is brought to you by Nicolas Cage brand walrus tampons. By the way, I looked it up and walruses don't even menstruate.
Also, can we dedicate tonight to Nichelle Nichols, please? I feel like that's important to bring up that.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
Presence Eternal says, I can tell you for certain that she would appreciate such a profound gesture.
I was being sincere, but...
I know. Yeah, leave it up to Presence Eternal to
that's fine.
Take
that's
the piss out of anything.
That's a fine way to start this amazing Monday.
This is dedicated to the memory of Nichelle Nichols. Now allow us to shit all over her legacy by making fun of the show and all of the tertiary media.
And reading fan fiction about it.
Love you, Space Mom. Okay, are we ready to start?
I'm good.
We haven't started.
We haven't started, he says, with his mouth full of crackers.
That was the beginning right there. We started when I gave that wonderful tribute.
Let's get started. Welcome to a special episode of Wiki Sift, a shallow dive into pop
culture?
Pop-Tarts!
Is that kind of... Yeah. Oh, did Star Trek have Pop-Tarts? Oh, man.
I swear you waited till I start saying this and then let out a wheezing laugh just to throw me off.
They were Romulan and Klingon flavored.
Welcome to a special episode of Wiki Sift, a shallow dive into pop culture and fandom. Today we're writing our own Star Trek novels. And
that's not what I was brought here for. I thought we were going to discuss Robin Williams' 1990 comedy drama affair, Toys.
What?
I'll see myself out.
I thought we were going to be discussing the early 90s FPS sensation Bad Toys. Fuck.
You guys are
really got our
making
signals
it really
crossed here.
hard for me to dedicate this issue to the passing of Nichelle Nichols. May Space Mom rest in peace. Oh boy.
Let's be serious for a moment.
Do sincerely.
I
don't know where we're gonna go from this, so I'm just gonna get started. I'm Tom, he's an evil genius white, and today I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm not Tom, he is an evil genius white.
But I am.
You have to actually say who you are after the joke. It's like Hollywood Squares, you can make the joke, but then you have to actually do the real answer.
Oh, are we finally going to play Hollywood Squares, the NES version, on stream? That would be awesome.
Well, we'll see where the evening takes us. This is Stevo.
I'm Stevo from Friday Night Fanfiction.
And I am Ian M. 0x Diamond Burton, jack of all everything and master of literally nothing.
I was going to say, that's far too many names.
We can add a few.
That's the joke.
It needs to be long enough to require a second business card. You hold them side by side when you meet somebody.
What this show is normally about is taking a peek at obscure and ridiculous trivia from fandoms that we do not participate in, but today things are going to be a little different. during our episodes about Star Trek novels, we remarked that we could just write our own, and so we did. But in true Wiki Sift fashion, instead of actually writing the whole thing, we just wrote a wiki page about it as if we already wrote it.
Which is brilliant. I'm very excited for this idea.
All right, so Ian will read mine first. You have the document there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Take it away.
Take the document away, Ian. Take it away.
Oh, okay. Let me close it. Let me click that X. Click. Oh, it's gone.
Oh, this was a short episode.
Instead, we're going to discuss bad toys for DOS and Windows 3.1. No. I'll do it for real. I'll do it for real. Enough fucking around here. All right. Listen. This one is for Nichelle Nichols. I hope in my heart of hearts that she would appreciate the lighthearted jabs we're taking at a series that really cemented her legacy in the world of not only science fiction, but pop culture in general.
She was the black one, right?
God,
oh my God.
I'm
sorry.
You're giving us shit when you do that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
My brain kept saying, this is a bad idea. Don't say that. And then I said it.
All right. Now that you have thoroughly sabotaged it, you must now make the episode title She Was the Black One, right?
Oh my God. I literally cannot believe this.
I met her. She's a darling.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. This needs to be She Was a Black One, right? Parentheses, rest in peace, Nichelle Nichols. Really?
This is a nightmare. I'm naked in front of my class and I forgot my book report. Oh God.
There is nothing wrong in reveling in the absurd. Okay, what is the first story?
This one is called The Stellar Storm. So our summary here is the Enterprise is ordered to transport a science officer to an outpost near the neutral zone while Kirk is on the verge of being promoted to Super Admiral. All right, I see where this is going. Okay.
Super Admiral, just a ripoff of Elmer's glue.
The scientist, a berserboid male named Bukowkel, is so handsome that even the male crew members, including Spock, admit to finding him incredibly alluring, even when wearing his people's traditional face-obscuring mating helmet. Okay, now I already have questions. Like, for example, why is he wearing the mating helmet around the ship?
It's the season.
I also have questions. How did you get access to my browser history?
Captain, he is wearing his mating helmet. I believe this means that in human terms, he is down to fuck.
That's not his mating helmet. He just got done with WWE, all right?
While traveling through what appears to be a normal nebula, the Enterprise finds itself in a cosmic storm. Spock is hit by lightning, which alters the molecular composition. How did that not faze me until just now?
How did Spock become the movie Powder?
We have done so many of these already that I was able to make it through that sentence halfway without realizing, wait a minute, no, that's absurd. Spock is hit by lightning, which alters the molecular composition of his blood cells. McCoy tells the captain he's never seen anything like it, but before he can run more tests, Spock sabotages several critical systems and steals a shuttlecraft to go sell Federation secrets to the Romulans.
Ah, the lightning strike activated his sleeper cell.
Yeah, the lightning is the powerhouse of the sleeper cell, so... Bucolical explains that Vulcan blood contains their ethical RNA.
Tom, I have to point out, Bucolical is me left-hand typing bukkake while masturbating. Good job.
Jeez.
It sounds like Space Macaulay Culkin to me, but Bucolical, and his last name is Culkin.
Hands smacked on cheeks. Bog!
Vulcan blood contains their ethical RNA, and unless the process can be reversed, Spock will exhibit increasingly immoral behavior and may eventually mutate into a Klingon.
Oh my god, is this their equivalent to the Rumspringa when the Amish get a fucking, like, sports car and drive around town? Selling their morals to the lowest bidder? This is awesome. I really appreciate this.
While Scotty tries to get the tractor beam back online, the crew discovers 2 more shuttlecraft have been stolen and are being piloted. I knew it was coming. Fucking knew it was coming.
Yes.
And are being piloted by 2 other Spocks who are trying to apprehend the first Spock.
Not really sure I appreciate where they're taking this 3 goddesses of Hyrule story.
Kirk asks Bucolical if it's possible the accident somehow cloned Spock without their knowledge, who says that without finding a way to recreate the accident, there's no way to tell. You've hit one of my favorite lesser elements, I want to just say, of they explain one very preposterous thing, but then see fit to not explain another preposterous thing. Like, oh, well, yeah, well, obviously his ethical RNA has been corrupted by it and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Do you think it could have cloned him too? I don't know. There's no way to tell.
I don't know. Kirk just interrupted the scan disc when Spock got struck by lightning, so we'll never know.
We have to find Spock's black box to get
I can't believe I made a fucking scan disc joke. Oh my god.
So Kirk orders the Enterprise to enter the neutral zone to intercept the shuttle, setting off a war with the Romulans. After the 3 Spocks are recovered, McCoy and Bucolical manage to recreate the incident, which splits the 3 Spocks into 39 additional Spocks. Kirk and McCoy retire to Kirk's quarters to have a cup of hot chocolate and discuss their predicament. And that's the end. That's how it ends.
Complete tangent. The neutral zone needs to be renamed considering how much conflict happens within it.
Yeah, it needs to be
Call
renamed
it the unneutral zone.
The conflict zone.
Yes, just call it the conflict zone, which sounds like a Sega Genesis beat 'em up.
Hell yeah, it does, and I'd play the shit out of the conflict zone.
Choose your favorite of the 39 Spocks.
Rutger, Ball Crush, Kick Puncher.
All right, so Ball Crush Spock is my new favorite, OC.
They're definitely going to have a female British robot voice at the beginning saying, "Welcome to Conflict Zone."
Oh, I thought you were about to say they were going to have a female British, like, seductive Spock. And There are 39 different Spocks!
Why is that the more obvious thing?
Okay, I'm thinking of this like Spock's The New Batch, like Gremlins, but it's all Spock.
Very illogical. Very illogical.
Did you just create my favorite crossover fanfiction? I think you did.
Remember, whatever you do, in his current state, you cannot feed Spock after midnight.
Midnight?
in space
And whatever
time.
you do,
Bucolic proceeds to just...
do not get him wet. And Bucolical is like, oh, well, we were getting hot and heavy, so we just decided to take a shower, and suddenly Spock starts splitting and turning into green, twisted Spocks.
It's a hard pan to them eating fried chicken in a hot tub at like 2 a.m.
Oh my god. The best part though is because we did
Captain,
these.
I may have gotten Spock wet.
And then he turns to the camera. Ah!
This scene redacted for content.
But of course, the thing here is we've all done
that
this.
was good.
It's not done yet because we've done this sort of like a wiki, so we do have the appendices on this one.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, all right.
So let's see. The book was meant to be continued in a sequel tentatively titled The Eggs of Infinity, which is, of course, what
Question mark?
Bacalical refers to his testicles as the Eggs of Infinity. But the author and publisher were unable to come to an agreement, and the sequel was never written. 20 years later, the author leaked the first 4 chapters of the story he wrote before negotiations fell through. Within the 4 chapters, Bacalical gets hit with 2 bolts of lightning at once, and is split into a male and female version. Then they have sex with each other and lay eggs that alter the flow of time around the ship.
Oddly enough, still not the weirdest fanfic I have read.
After this, it devolves into a long-winded rant against censorship in book publishing. There's also a part where McCoy turns into a bat for some reason.
Was this published on GitHub?
The leaked manuscript was online 2 weeks before the publisher sent a cease and desist order, and it was promptly removed.
Gee, I wonder why. You can't keep that sexy McCoy bat hidden forever, publisher. All right, so it says Ian's book read by Stevo. Is that still the case?
Yep.
All right. In bold face, all caps, Tomorrow's Yesterday's, a Star Trek novel by Ronald Ho Hauser.
Tomorrow's Yesterdays cracked me up before I could even look at the synopsis.
Tomorrow's Yesterdays are literally just today. It's just today. Call it today. Are you free for lunch? Are you free for lunch on Tomorrow's Yesterday? Do you mean today?
That is a perfect on-the-nose Star Trek episode name.
Yeah, I was really I'm like sitting there going like, what do I want to call it? Like the doorway to forever? And I was like, no. First I was going to do one that was like a spoof of the gateway to eternity or whatever. And I was like, the doorway to forever, the doorway to tomorrow. And then I just said, you know what? No, Tomorrow's Yesterdays. There we go.
All right. So when I get the
It's
opportunity
perfect.
to get around to writing one of these, I'm just going to call mine, if we're doing it in the style of an episode title, I'm just going to call mine Divorce. I'll let you all figure out what the content will actually be, but I can see a Star Trek episode called Divorce being aired quite often on syndication.
I mean, yeah.
Excitement, intrigue, espionage,
Divorce.
divorce. All right, hold on. When the USS Enterprise accidentally ejects its warp core while
Wait,
navigating
where-
around a... What?
Did you skip a whole bunch of stuff?
No, that's the...
Oh, sorry, I missed... Never mind.
I put a
Did you-
blurb at the top, like,
When you said incitement, intrigue, espionage, I thought that was your own personal flair, that you weren't actually reading
No,
it.
it's right there.
Okay, I apologize. Please continue.
All right. When the USS Enterprise accidentally ejects its warp core while navigating around a dangerous
Accidentally.
globular cluster near Cephas 2D V, they find that their breakdown has greater consequences than a simple stranding. Kirk is comatose, my favorite kind of toast. Spock is obsessed. And Bortz is gripped with sudden alcoholism. The only way to save the ship and its crew is to unravel the mystery of Tomorrow's Yesterdays.
Oh man, that fits the blurb format so perfectly. And now I'm regretting that I didn't do one for mine. I just went straight to the summary.
Well, hey, we've got some time. If you would like to work on it while I'm reading, that is okay.
I love how it doesn't say what Spock is obsessed with. It's just obsessed in general.
Yeah.
Spock is obsessed by seeing Walmart's price rollbacks. How can these prices get any lower?
That's how the blurb always is. It like mentions something like that, but it doesn't tell you anything remotely resembling like the details. That's how they get you. That's the hook.
Yeah.
Summary. While traveling to the war-torn planet of Chongus 12.
Is that a Homestar reference?
No, that would be Jonka.
That's Jonka
Right.
or Pudonkus, which is the
Yeah.
name of Strong Mad's stuffed animal. The Enterprise encounters an unknown globular cluster directly in their flight path. Usually, if you find that, you should consult with a doctor immediately. Spock's initial observations indicate that it is unlike any other on record, and as such,
Of course.
what? It may be dangerous to travel through. Agreeing with this assessment, Kirk orders the ship to take a detour towards Cephas 2DV. However, as they are halfway between the planet and the cluster, clumsy young Ensign Winkmanen trips and bumps into Scotty, whose hand is forced onto the button that ejects the warp core in space.
They just have one button that you press and it ejects it immediately.
The reason why it was easy to hit is the little plastic cover was being taken off for cleaning at the time.
There's not even there's not even like a little clippy saying, "Are you sure you want to eject the warp?"
It's also like right next to a whole bunch of other buttons that they have to press all the time, so it's a really inconvenient spot.
Yeah, it's right next to the keep going button. You have to every once in a while just press a button to make sure the ship keeps going.
It's in between the keep going button and the do not explode button, which also has to constantly be pressed. With the ship now incapable of warp speed travel, the Enterprise and its crew are stranded adrift in space.
Well, it can't have gone that
far.
They must not have been traveling at warp speed when it was ejected, so they could
Otherwise,
just like
the
track
reflex would have
it.
snapped all of their necks. Oh, that's amazing.
Unless it somehow got ejected while they were still at warp speed, and they just
Yeah. Hey, author, go back and make this a choose your own adventure.
If you want Mr. Scott to accidentally hit the warp core eject button, turn to page 7.
If you want them
If you want him to hit the do explode button, there's a don't explode button and a do explode button, and they're right next to each other. And neither is labeled, and they're the same color.
How the fuck did the Enterprise get OSHA compliancy? How? How is this legally flying? That's all right. I'm going back to
And then
the story.
there's a
Okay.
next generation episode addressing that where Picard goes, "Well, you see, in the future, we are no longer required to follow OSHA standards. We have moved as a species beyond the need for an OSHA." And some guy from the 20th century, they just woke up, is like, bullshit!
Tonight's episode, after a special re-airing of tomorrow's yesterdays, is the new episode, The Buttons Next to Other Buttons. Kirk begins sending a message to the nearest Starfleet outpost asking for help, but the ship is hit by a strange energy burst from the globular cluster, and he instantly falls into a coma-like state. Spock takes over the transmission and explains what has happened, stating that he will take temporary command of the vessel. Starfleet responds by saying this won't be necessary, as they will be sending a temporary captain along with the new warp core. Okay. Prime 2-day delivery on that warp core, I guess. And that it would be wisest with the situation as it is to simply have nobody be the boss. It's a crossover between Star Trek and Family Matters. Spock agrees that this is logical, ends transmission, and has Kirk rush to sickbay.
I think the real punchline of this one is that Spock agrees that this is logical.
Yes, that was absolutely my intention.
Spock would have immediately aligned with the bad guy from The Incredibles who said, when everybody's special, no one will be. That makes logical sense.
I'm afraid I have to side with...
That is such a bizarre Star Trek trope. Whenever they want something really stupid to sound logical, they just have Spock agree with it like it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm not going to law school. That seems logical. Spock is the supportive uncle everybody needs. Just, make sure it's not on Palm Far and it'll be fine. However, as they await the arrival of the shuttle ferrying their temporary captain and their new warp core, the crew begin behaving strangely. Spock stumbles across records pertaining to an ancient Earth television program, which he quickly begins to singularly obsess over. Meanwhile, in sickbay, Dr. McCoy is sweating profusely. I just want to leave it there. Just let that simmer for a minute. He's really, really sweaty. And stumbling over his words, finally deciding he needs to have a drink to calm his nerves. Solo, sick, and Chekhov quietly leave the bridge and disappear into a maintenance corridor together, and Uhura suddenly seems only capable of communicating through the universal language of dance.
Let's do a tribute to Nichelle Nichols on our show.
I was not the one who said she's the black one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I really like how you purposely misspelled Sulu as Solo, and you had to put a little note there to make sure we understood that was the joke.
That would be in the article.
Yep.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Meanwhile, in Kirk's comatose state, it's good attention to detail, he has horrible nightmarish flashbacks to traumatic events he has experienced during his 5-year mission within a dark, howling void. Somewhere in the distance, he sees a faint purple light, and he hears laughter and music. Kafka? But he is unable to move towards
Sonic.exe is coming after him!
Yeah. As if his body is encased in tar. On a break, as he's unable to jury-rig a solution to the warp core problem, Scotty is initially amused by a drunken McCoy, but then realizes something is terribly wrong when he drinks him under the table. I'm glad that didn't go where I was initially going, but then realizes something is terribly wrong when McCoy starts vomiting blood. It's like McCoy's blood alcohol level.
Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a.
If you ever play Sea of Thieves, have the first thing you do get drunk on grog with friends in the tavern, so that you're vomiting and playing music on each other. It's great. Meanwhile, okay, I read that already. With his own thoughts somewhat clouded in alcohol, he returns to engineering and warns Ensign Winkman.
Just goes back to work drunk.
Of the signs. Was this a pun of the signs of brewing trouble?
It wasn't, but it is now.
Wakeman theorizes that it may have something to do with the globular cluster, and Scotty agrees before proceeding to barf on Ensign Wakeman.
Brilliant deduction, Wakeman.
Do you think it could be the one and only strange thing we've encountered? I think you might be onto something, laddie.
I like how Ensign Wakeman is introduced as the bumbling ensign who causes trouble, and then changes to the one character with a head on his shoulders that understands what's going on.
I'm fine with that as long as every single time Scotty or McCoy do anything for the rest of the story, it's preceded by them vomiting.
I want every appearance of Ensign Wakeman in this story to have him take on a different character role within the story.
So the data. Okay, got it. Or are you talking about plot-wise taking on a different role, or like character-wise taking on a different role?
Oh no, character-wise,
like,
I'm sure.
Character-wise, like
okay.
We established that Winkman is a bumbling idiot, and then he's suddenly the voice of reason, and I'm sure Tom's hoping that next he'll be like the salty dance hall chanteuse.
Yeah.
And the next he's also drinking Scotty under the table. My God, this is just like freshman year of college all over again. Attempting to bring Spock's scientific expertise onto their investigation, Winkman seeks him out and finds him in the ship's rec room, sitting in the dark and watching a holographic projection of an ancient television show. Despite his half-Vulcan heritage, Spock is weeping openly. Is he watching the Golden Girls?
Oh, you'll find out.
Okay, I would be upset if it's not the Golden Girls, because that seems like a very Spock thing. God damn it.
You're going to be upset, but I think you're going to be immediately okay once you get to it.
Okay, all right. The disappointment will quickly recede into elation.
I think so.
All right, good. I'll take those odds. Good Vegas odds on that. The ensign tries to reason with him, but to no avail. Scotty enters, having been looking for, I keep wanting to say Walkman, like the cassette tape player.
Ensign Walkman,
but
yeah.
it's Winkman. Ensign Walkman listening to that cool mixtape I got from Jake the other day. And is finally able to get
could
Spock
be worse.
to
You could be misreading it as Wankman.
And is finally able to get Spock to a moment of clarity by slapping him repeatedly.
Oh, that is peak Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
The three men investigate the globular cluster and find that, alarmingly, it appears to be drawing closer. Spock notices that the patterns of electrical discharge firing within it appear at least 90% similar to the impulses of a humanoid brain, surmising that it is perhaps some form of intelligence.
Sorry, the thing about slapping Spock just reminds me, like, when a few years back I started trying to get back into original Star Trek, and I started with the episode called The Man Trap.
Oh, was that the salt vampire?
I don't think so. It was the one where this alien takes on the form of this woman that McCoy knew from his past, and I guess had feelings for.
Yeah, that's the salt vampire.
Okay, maybe it is. It's been a while, and the way Spock tries to reason with the McCoy is like it's not her. Could she take this? It just goes up and starts double knuckle, like interlaced fist hammer punching her in the face repeatedly, and she's just standing there and like her head going back and forth, and he's repeatedly pummeling her in the face, and McCoy's just like, stop it, Spock, stop it. And I'm just like, I want every episode of Star Trek to be like this. Just have Spock just run up to someone and repeatedly
And just start
smack him in
fucking
the
wailing
face,
on him.
and McCoy's increasingly desperately telling him to stop, and he just won't stop. Stop it, Spock, stop.
All right, I'm very much hoping that in the next sentence they don't start talking about arming the photon torpedoes to attack the intelligence, because that does seem like a 50-50 shot.
No.
All right. Worried but unable to do anything without a leader, Zero and Stevo decided to give up when Tom disconnected.
I didn't disconnect, I'm still here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was writing fan fiction in my head about us. Let me get back to what we were actually reading. The men are relieved when the shuttle ferrying the new warp core and their temporary captain arrives, Captain James's son. Captain Jameson immediately takes charge, and getting the situation report from Spock, Scotty, and Ensign Winkman covered in vomit, decides that an investigation is needed. He surmises that this globular cluster must be behind these behavioral shifts, and that, being intelligent, it must be able to communicate. Not gonna hard agree with that assessment. Scotty and Winkman return to engineering and begin installing the new warp core as Spock begins to maneuver the ship towards the globular cluster on impulse power. I hope that in the meantime, Ensign Wigman has taken a bunch of duct tape and taped over the warp core eject button.
Okay, can I comment on how the plan was to avoid the cluster altogether, and Spock's plan is now to just drift towards it?
Yeah.
Hey, it makes sense to me. In engineering, Scotty and Wigman find that they cannot install the warp core, as Solo, Sick, and Chekhov have taken up residence in its compartment and have formed a smooth jazz trio with a third unnamed crew member and enduring wearing mirrored sunglasses.
I just love how Sulu is the one that's consistently misspelled, even though Chekhov is way harder to spell.
Yes.
Effort. It's effort where effort matters.
They're always mentioned together.
Yeah, as if they're one character, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Despite their pleading, the trio refuse to move, calling Scotty a wet blanket and a buzz kill. Such fierce name calling. I'm disgusted and appalled. The globular cluster soon closes in on the Enterprise and envelops it completely, bringing it within itself. Inside, there is a pleasant purple aurora of light and the constant sounds of laughter and music. As the ship drifts further within, chaos breaks out. The ship's computer begins spraying a foul-smelling foam over every surface of the bridge. The atmosphere begins to grow gelatinous, and the doors to the bridge open, and a swarm of additional Spocks rush in and drag off the original.
I had to get it in. I had to.
I should have expected that every one of our stories was going to have multiple Spocks.
That's your free bingo space. Will it have extra Spocks? Jameson calls down to engineering, begging them to get the ship moving, but Scotty is busy wrestling against the jazz trio as the room itself begins to take on the characteristics of chocolate pudding. That's a Homestar reference.
That one is, yes.
Yes, Captain Jameson, in desperation, I'm also afraid of gingivitis, opens all hailing frequencies and pleads with the entity to have mercy and let the ship go. Just when the deafening silence seems to prove all hope is lost, a voice responds, Captain Kirk's, the entity identifying itself as God's father, Horlock. Asks Jameson what it knows of his father. When Jameson begins to speak of his biological father, Horlock clarifies that it means that which created all life in the universe, God. Jameson, unsure of how best to answer, falls back to Plato's account of Socrates' tale of meeting the Oracle of Delphi, explaining to the entity that despite all man's advances, there is still much for us to learn, and that no one man can truly say they understand the nature of the forces which govern the universe. The entity beckons Jameson to come closer by beaming himself to a specific set of coordinates. Hesitant at first, Jameson agrees and donning a spacesuit, beams himself out to meet with Horlock. I can't say that name without giggling. I'm sorry. As Jameson materializes, he finds himself in a glorious golden meadow of beautiful foliage as far as the eye can see. He feels an impulse to run and jump and frolic, but hold steady. Blinking once, which signifies yes, he then finds himself in a barren, black wasteland of craggy, cracked stone and pits of sulfur and brimstone. He has the impulse to run and scream and hide, but again, steadies himself.
We're learning a lot about his various impulses.
After another blink, he finds himself in a world wholly alien, so bizarre as to be near indescribable. The border world, Zen from Half-Life.
That is such a written fiction trope that's so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Just write that it's indescribable and leave it at that.
Yo, this thing is so weird. Just imagine the weirdest shit you can think of and think of that it's weirder. That's all it is. He has the urge to take flight and go capture the stars, but once again, holds still with the very last of his will. Blinking again, he finds himself floating in space before the heart of Horlock.
Did you mention that the laws of physical reality don't seem to apply here?
Which appears as a giant purple hand made of brilliantly glowing material that looks to be both gelatinous and gaseous at once.
I just want to make sure you didn't leave that out because that is a sentence there.
That's an amazing description of Taco Bell. Gelatinous and gaseous all at once. For reals.
That's a good description of what comes out of your body after Taco Bell.
Sure, that too. Horlock finally explains that it has only just recently entered into our universe in search of its child and had never before encountered any of its creations. It apologizes for what it has been doing to the crew of the Enterprise, saying it simply had been experimenting with the various parameters of the ship and its crew to learn about how his son's creations worked. Also, in parentheses, he called it a social experiment, which makes it okay.
It was just a prank, bro, said Horlock.
Jameson nods slowly in understanding, stating that the Enterprise's mission is one of curiosity and learning as well, which is why the Enterprise has been certified kink-friendly. Finding and understanding, it releases Kirk's mind, which it had been using in hopes that it could communicate with us, and returns Jameson to the Enterprise with a gift, a brilliantly glowing crystal shaped like a saxophone full of eels. It's very Douglas Adams of you, Zero.
Yeah, you know.
The crew settled back to normal, though Chekhov has 2 broken arms, and the unnamed ensign has lost all of his teeth from their row with Scotty, and Kirk returns to the bridge. Jameson salutes and attempts to give him a full report, but Kirk holds up a hand and shakes his head, saying he already knows all about it. Before leaving, Jameson hands him the mysterious crystal and then departs on the shuttle. The story ends with Kirk sitting by a window in his quarters, one hand on the crystal, pondering the nature of our own God and wondering if Horlock, too, had a father that created him. Also, he was spying on what Spock was looking at and was wholeheartedly appalled. All right, since I read that entire fucking thing, Tom, can you please read the rest?
Okay, I'll do my best. Okay, so we have quotes from the book written here. Well, there goes the whole shebang. Like the baby thrown out with the bathwater. We're in trouble, lad. Montgomery Scott. You can tell from my flawless Scottish accent.
Yeah, that was really good.
I didn't know who I was quoting it for.
It was almost as if James Doohan were here in the room.
I simply don't understand why. Why did they cancel this program? In all the makings of a masterful modern drama, this television network made a mistake. They were fools. Fools! Spock.
So, do we find out what the show was, or is that still...
You will, don't worry.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
All right, it wasn't mentioned at all in the synopsis.
There's a trivia section yet.
I'm sorry, I can't read this. Stevo, can you read this next one?
Problem? I don't have a problem. You have a problem. And it's gonna get worse if you don't give me back that goddamn bottle, you shit stain. Dr. McCoy.
Dr. McCoy.
Where are you going, Ensign Winkman?
Why is that a quote? Like, what is he, the DQ lips?
No, he's the DK. He's the Donkey Kong of the crew.
I threw that one in just because, like, you know, there has to be, like, one quote where it's like, it doesn't fucking mean anything at all. It's the most throwaway line in the book.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be there because some guy editing this wiki clearly was like, no, this is important.
It's like, we don't have any quotes from Ensign Wickman. We gotta have something. What does he say on this page?
Where are you going? There we go. It's good.
This reminds me of something Harlan Ellison once wrote. He was an idiot. Nobody liked him. Nobody remembers him anymore but scholars. And even then, only as a footnote. Wait. What?
Again, this one will make sense once we get to the trivia.
Okay, there are a few things I need to process with this one. But like, if he's reminded of something he said, then obviously somebody remembered him.
Well, nobody but scholars, and Kirk obviously is a scholar because he knows so much.
Yeah, that's true. Today we have found that for all our follies, for all our flights of fancy, that at the end of the day, all of tomorrow's yesterdays turned out to be this afternoon. Simon Jameson.
Oh, I thought you were about to read me out for eating on the show. I didn't know that you were reading a quote.
That is a perfect end of episode quote.
All right, you want to read the trivia section or you want me to go back to it?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I tried not to read ahead, but I saw something. Okay, here we go. Despite the book's jacket about the author blurb stating that Hohauser is a big fan of Star Trek, there are several inconsistencies in the story that draw this into question. For one, the events of tomorrow's yesterdays are supposed to occur during the Enterprise's original 5-year mission, yet there is mention of an up-and-coming Commander Decker, Star Trek TMP?
The motion
picture. Who is gunning for Kirk's job. During Kirk's comatose nightmares, he flashes back to traumatic events he's experienced, yet the scene in which Abraham Lincoln fought the Gord was never actually depicted in the series, as Lincoln only appeared in the Savage Curtain, while the Gord was only seen in Arena. Also, he continually refers to Sulu as Solo throughout, and refers to him being Chinese.
Oh my god!
I should have known we were going to have some reference to racism in one of these.
I went with the best way I could do it, which was just the guy seems to be confused rather than hateful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Similarly, the blurb mentions intrigue and espionage, yet neither element actually appears in the story. It is possible these are present in the original draft and were not reused in the final version, and they simply forgot to remove them from the blurb before publishing. While it is never explicitly stated which Ancient Earth television show that Spock has become obsessed with, it is clear through a number of clues from the author that was intended to be Manimal.
All right, there was the brief disgust and then the elation. Yeah, that was it. That was good.
Bravo.
Proud of you.
Bravo.
Why? Why did they cancel Manimal?
Further evidencing the author, I was actually hoping you were going to put that fans were able to piece it together with a bunch of clues. So even though it wasn't explicitly said, the fans know for a fact it was Manimal.
Yeah, because obviously you can't say Manimal, you'll get sued.
There's like cells from the episode that show a cut scene of him watching Manimal. There's a reason why the scene is cut, because Spock throws a TV at a stagehand.
Further evidencing the author's interest in Manimal is the fact that Captain Jameson is described in exacting detail in a way that seems to indicate he was intended to be Simon McCorkindale, star of the aforementioned series. Oh, here we go. The original draft of the book was written by none other than Harlan Ellison, but due to a disagreement over the bill at dinner with the CEO of the publishing house that infamously ended in a fistfight in the parking lot, that version was lost. Unable to recover the script after Ellison had thrown it into the Pacific Ocean, they hastily handed it off to the first writer in their employ, who said they could finish it in a weekend. So that's why nobody liked Harlan Ellison and was forgotten.
Yeah. The publisher told him to put that line in there. I don't care how you write this book. I don't care what you put in it, as long as the Enterprise and Kirk and whoever is in it, and you make sure to make people know that Harlan Ellison's a fucker.
There was so much rage in that, so much anger and hate.
I once that idea hit me, I was
dear.
like, I cannot not put this in here, that a well-respected author of science fiction got in a fucking fist fight in the parking lot of a restaurant with the head of the publishing company. And then he got so The publisher was so
additional trivia. There was a follow-up match booked on pay-per-view.
I kind of love how both of our stories included a veil reference to a fight with the publisher.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a sign of a truly good book, is when the publisher has some serious problems involving it.
That's it for today. Thank you to everyone for listening. Please review us on whatever you're listening to us on. It doesn't have to be a good review. Any review is fine. If you're not sure what to say, just say these people are a bunch of sad loser nerd monkeys. Until next time.